Well, I am so excited to introduce our guest today, DJ Neumann. DJ Neumann was actually someone that I met. He went through our Bold program, and the first time we ever connected, there was just this connection. Before I ever met him, we just talked and talked and talked. I'm like, oh my gosh, we have such a like-minded approach. There's so much alignment. He comes through class and just an incredible human. His mom and dad actually own Speed Clean out of Minnesota. I always want to go Michigan or Minnesota. It's the MI.
Yeah, it's Michigan. We're out of the Detroit area. Yeah.
It's so funny. I always look at, the MI, and in my mind, it's been a long time since I'm in the high school. It's like, what are the state initials again? But what was really cool is he has this podcast called The Uncommon Edge, and I got to be a guest, and your heart. So I know that you also run the business as Speed Clean Services.
Correct.
But what I know you as is someone who has this heart, this passion to coach, to teach. You are truly a student for life. And I'm excited to have you on our podcast. I got to be your first. And funny story, you're actually my first because Connor couldn't make it today. So thank you for showing up.
Oh, my pleasure, Mary. It is an honor for me to be on your podcast, and I love everything that you guys are doing in, driven leadership and the bold experience and like everything that you guys got going on. So I am super, super excited to have this conversation with you.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to take you back to way back when we first talked, and you were someone and are someone who just learns and researches and learns and researches. And then you come in and you do the work. And actually Kevin Allen was the one that set us up because he met you in a group. What is, and I'm going to go off the cuff here because I know we're going to get into our topic.
Sure.
But what was your favorite, most impactful, it could be one or two trainings that just were like, man, I need more, that it created the hunger inside of you? Because you've done some pretty big shit.
Yeah, to just give a little background, I've done a ton of personal and professional development training. I think to date, I'm around $700,000 in investment in personal and professional growth.
700,000.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. That's a 700,000.
That is correct. I've done trainings with people like Darren Hardy, Grant Cardone, Brandon Dawson, Tommy Mello. I've done a lot of stuff with like Josh Latimer. I'm doing stuff now with like Chris Lee. There's all kinds of like big names. Not to mention like Tony Robbins, and then all the books like Jim Rohn and John Maxwell. I got a chance to meet him one-on-one. There's all kinds of big names and big thinks that I've had an opportunity to get involved in. So it's really hard to say like what was one that like really made me like super thirsty for more, because each one I went in with like very specific intentions. Obviously like Bold, that experience was absolutely like, this is the thing I've done with all of that stuff. The big thing that separates like Bold from any other program that I've been through is not just the heart that you bring to the table when you do it. Like you actually give a shit about the people that are coming through. Not to say that like no one else does, but it's at a deeper and more personal level than I've experienced in any of the trainings that I've done. So like, that's why like when I got done with Bold, like I was instantly like, I need to send one of my team members through. So it was like, I ended up sending Harmony, my admin assistant, through right away. And she came back with great experiences as well. But not to like toad on yours. And I'm sure you're like, hey, out of all these other ones.
And I'm like,
right?
this wasn't a Bold plug, but thank you for the Bold plug.
No, but it's honest to God truth. I mean, I speak from the heart. What I think gets me in the mood to have like more and more connection with these types of things is when you level up your network and the people that you're actually interacting with. That's what gets me fired up. So like you can go to these these conferences and these courses and all these other types of things, and you're there and you think you're like going to learn from the instructor or the coach or whatever, or the speaker, which you do.
Yeah.
But the real mastery comes from when you're gathered around the lunch table, or you're gathered in the audience and you're listening and getting experiences, and being able to exchange contact information and look for real connection in the audience for people that are like-minded and like engaged in the same type of leveling up that you're trying to do. I've made some insane connections, and people have helped me in my business. I've had the opportunity to help others in their businesses and grow communities together, which has inspired like the Uncommon Edge and some other odds and ends that we've done. And
is that virtual?
Yeah, it's virtual. Like, it's just other attendees and stuff like that we've been in. It all started with, I was in Darren Hardy's program. It was his business masterclass, which is a phenomenal technically 4-day virtual event. And at that time, this was like 5 years ago, he had no community. There was no like after support or anything like that. And there was 9 of us, and we're like, man, we want to like keep this going, keep connected, and like some way to do it. So I took it upon myself. I'm like, all right, well, I can host a Zoom call or whatever. And then the 9 of us got together like on a bi-weekly basis, and it just started, rehashing the things that we learn and what are we applying in business and all that type of stuff. So it turned into like one of the ways that I hold myself accountable is, as I learn things, I go and I regurgitate like what it is that I learn. Because when you go to teach somebody something, you end up learning at a different level than when you're going to consume something. You show up differently, and it held me accountable to keep going. So every 2 weeks for 5 years straight, I've been showing up and pouring into these people, and they've been pouring back into me. And it's been a great thing. It's inspired and helped me grow my business and grow others. There's members in that community. I remember Mike Rogers, when he started, he was doing 1.7 million, and now he's doing like 10. So it's like really, really cool to see the application of all this type of stuff that we've learned together.
Well, you even just said right before we started this that you've helped grow your parents' company, and you're alongside with them over 630%.
Yes. Yeah. That's a net profit. Like, one of the things one of my mentors had taught me is, revenue is for vanity and profits for sanity. So like when we look at like growth metrics and like what's going on, we look at the actual net profit or the EBITDA of the company to make sure that you're actually doing it. Because I've also met people that have companies that are doing $20 million but not making a profit. So like there's different levels. So oftentimes like people are doing like $500,000 or $250,000 or even just starting up or whatever, and they're looking at that and like, oh my God, like I wish I could do that. Well, look at like what you're actually keeping at the end of the year too. So that's a big thing.
Well, I started asking you where it came from because I know how hungry and how passionate you are about learning and growing. And usually there's a starting point. Something happens where it triggers, there's a connection. It's like we want more, whether we read a book or we go to a course or somebody teaches us, and there's this hunger. And yet, even with your Uncommon Edge, there's a difference between people who sit and learn it, right? They take it in and they apply it. And it goes into the Dale Cohn experience theory, where they say when things are important, we remember about 10% of what we read, 20% of what we hear, 30% of what we see, 50% of what we hear and see. So if you're watching this versus just listening, there's a little bit more stickiness. 70% if we feel an emotion and if we have a dialogue. And then it can go up to like 95% when we take the concept and we turn around and teach it. And you're one of those few people that I've met. There's a lot of people who are hungry and they'll do the work, but the one who's uncommon, and that's your edge, is to do even more. It's like, well, what else can I do? How can I serve? Because when I look at you, DJ, you really have a servant's mentality, a servant's heart mentality. And it's so cool. So the topic today you said was me versus we versus us, and it ties all into this. And could you explain for the listeners? Can you break it down? So, what's a me mentality?
Sure. So this entire concept, if you want to go like really deep, is inspired by John Maxwell. He's got a lot of great books that dig into this entire topic. But I really love this me versus we versus us. And so if you've never heard this concept before, essentially what it is at a high level is, in order to lead anything, you have to first start by leading yourself. Like, how are you showing up for yourself? Is it your health where it needs to be? Is your relationships where it needs to be? Is like, are you doing the thing that you said you're going to do? Like, are you showing up and doing the hard things that you promised yourself that you're going to do? Because only then can you truly transfer that into we leadership. When you start training and coaching a team and scaling a team, it could be one-on-one or small group setting. And then as you go to hold them accountable, you have to first hold yourself accountable. So it dives into that we leadership. So now we're into the we stuff. But then as the culture grows, and then you look at the overall overarching theme of the entire team, the entire company, the culture, everything that's involved in the leadership role that you sit at, either in the presidential spot or CEO position, or even if you're a manager out there listening to this right now, like, how are you showing up for yourself? That goes into the us. So how are you developing that entire culture? So it all starts with me. So if you're applying this into business, there are me level tasks. So in the service industry, where I'm from, being a service technician, those are me related tasks. Like, how am I showing up for myself? Am I doing the task that I was assigned? Like, those types of things. These are me related tasks. But then when you get into we relationship or we leadership based stuff, then you're now diving into, now I'm responsible for somebody. Right now, I gotta maybe have an assistant under my belt, or maybe I have a small team. And then when it's the us, that's when you're responsible for the entire organization. And like, how do you bring everybody together as a cohesive unit? Like, I know
So,
this is high level, but
no, I know, but so I look at it and I'm like, me mentality. How do I show up? How do you get someone to switch? Because so many times in this world, humans are very I focused. And you could have a team, but they're still selfish. They're still self-centered. So how would you coach someone, or have you seen something like that where you'd be able to shift them into more of a we before you can get to an us?
it's funny that you bring this up, because I was just in a conversation earlier today where we talked about this. And so one of the things that we do in our team is, whenever you go to lead somebody into another role or anything along those lines, there's a filter of 3 questions that we ask. And the first question is, do they want it? Right? Do they actually want to do it? And it's okay if the answer is no. It is completely okay, because some people are good in that spot. It's the matter of, like, your vehicle, your business is a vehicle, right? And there is a Jim Collins talks about this in Good to Great. Your business is a vehicle, and you have to get the right people in the right seats. And sometimes, like, the right seat might be a me leadership position. That's okay. But if it's a we position, is, do they want it? Then the next question is, do they have the competency to actually do it? And then lastly, when it comes to the last question, there is, do they have the capacity to do it?
That's like the EOS when we
Yeah,
went through the whole roles, right? Do they want it? Can they do it? Do they have the competency? And then do they have the capacity? Okay.
right. So yeah, so as you go through any of that, it's like, you gotta really ask those. Anytime I've wound up with major egg on my face in a leadership role, is because I was like, oh, they might not have the competency to do it, but we can get them there, or whatever. That's the big heart coming out. But every time that I've steered away from that filter, I've usually ended up with egg on my
Mm.
face. Like, when you try to convince somebody to do something and they haven't found the why behind it or the purpose behind it, um, usually they're there for a paycheck or something along those lines, which obviously everybody's there for money at some point. But if that's the main motivator, sometimes that doesn't help the overall arching organization. So, yeah. So as far as getting somebody to do that, a lot of coaching and personal development. We also do like one-on-one meetings where we look at personal, professional, and financial goal planning. I'm a firm believer, if you're not your best self outside of work, you can't bring your best self inside of work. So I guess I should like backtrack a quick second and kind of explain like the purpose and the why behind what it is that makes this a passion for me. See, in our industry, we do a lot of stuff when it comes to like cleaning up sewage under somebody's home, or doing like, sometimes we got some like really, really dirty jobs,
nasty
right?
stuff.
And so nobody wakes up in the middle of their day and say, hey, you know what? I want to go shovel shit out of somebody's basement, right? It just doesn't happen. But that does provide and put food on the table. So what happens is a lot of times people do this job initially as like a means of like, hey, there was not a lot of other options, right? And I wanted to change that, because what came with that territory, I had a lot of employees that were using drugs, alcohol. I've lost employees to suicide. I've lost employees to alcohol, drugs. I have obituary cards that sit on my desk that like, it bothers me so much. And I remember having a conversation with my dad, and I'm like, yeah, I just don't understand why this is the case. And he goes, DJ, you just got to understand that this is our industry. Like, you're gonna be dealing with this for the rest of your life. And I, at that point, like had a major passion that erupted me. Like, no, like we're going to eradicate this, and this is going to be done. I started getting around people. Like I did some Dale Carnegie training and some other odds and ends.
So
and
there's your training. That's what I was
Right.
talking about. Where did it start? Okay.
Right.
Sorry.
So yeah, 100%. So I started like doing this stuff because I was a CD student, like in high school. Like I wasn't like, education was not an important thing growing up in my house. It was like, you're here to work and you like do a good work ethic. So like I grew up doing janitorial work, scrubbing toilets, vacuuming, doing all this type of stuff as a young kid, and I was paid ice cream, and I thought it was the greatest thing ever, right? And then I started getting a paycheck for it and whatnot. But as you grow through all that, like there had to been more, right? So I started getting inspired by other people. I'm like, how did that guy or that girl do the thing? And then like I heard somebody talk about Dale Carnegie training, so I went and did some Dale Carnegie stuff, and then I did stuff, like I said, with all these other mentors, and it was like, man, each person I learned new insights, and then I would go ahead and apply it. But at first I couldn't afford any of it. Like I couldn't afford any of it at all. So I started reading books and all that type of stuff. And I was made fun of for it. Like, friends and family and all that stuff were giving me a hard time about the education aspect. I'm not an avid reader. I actually have some mild dyslexia. So like, it's hard for me to read. And, but I found when I would read and I would apply the things that I would read, there would be a result. So that was like the thing that would keep me going. Like, hey, if I did this thing and I applied this, it would work. And not all the time does it work, but most of the time it did. And then I started applying that to like my like people in the organization. Like, hey, like when I did like some personal finance stuff, I was doing some Dave Ramsey training and stuff like that early on. So I was like, hey, I can teach this to my guys that were going paycheck to paycheck. Well, now I got people that aren't going paycheck to paycheck, and they're paying off all their loans, and they've paid off their cars and houses and stuff like that. And like when I hear about people in my organization that say like, hey, I'm not struggling anymore, like that's big. Like, and so it's been a long time since we've had somebody that's passed or had those types of things, and I've had those hardships. And
so it started off with this. It started off with this passion, this drive to say we need to change our industry because it was so painful to watch your people go through it that it created this shift to do something different.
Yeah, and that's where I found the true calling. So like I'm not super passionate about carpet cleaning or water damage restoration or auto stuff, like things that we do, the types of services that we provide. I'm not crazy passionate about it, but I do know that I've gotten really good at it. And I've also known that that is a vehicle for me to help other people. So it's like, how can I help the people within my organization be better in their community, be better for their family, provide more for their families, stuff like that. That is something that is really, really passionate for me. And then from there, it just grew past that. So I started learning about, like, how can I help other people in their organizations? As I was growing my company and the culture here and seeing people grow, I was finding other people that needed that in their company, which got me into other rooms. And we started working with things like warplan.ai, Josh Latimer and myself. We're like we have this entire ecosystem where we can learn how to install like this thing we call the FRAP formula: frequency, referral, average ticket price, in ways to build businesses and grow, so that we can teach people to be able to do that within their organizations as well.
So I want to actually go back to the me versus we versus us, because no, you're good. Because what you were painting a picture, right? Because at first it's like, here's the method, here's the mindset of what John Maxwell teaches. And then you go, let me go backwards. And so many times I think this is what people do, is they grab a hold of a concept, an idea, a book, and they're like, oh, here it is. But it's so theoretical. It's the application, is how does it relate to me? And you did something where you went back into the me. You're looking at this industry. Well, what can I do? So how can I get better? How can I grow so that I can come back and teach these concepts to my team, these individuals, so that they're not struggling, that they have hope, that they can buy that house, that they can pay off their debt, that they can do something, they can grow in a leadership role, to the us, which is you're creating this culture. And I freaking love harmony. I'm just going to say, if you have a bunch of people in your company like harmony, you have created the us. Yet it starts with an individual. And you also said, I'm not passionate about carpet cleaning, or cleaning your car, yet you're passionate about growing people. And I hear this over and over and over. I'm in this role right now, but I feel like I'm in a dead end. And it's finding your niche, the uncommon edge that you can step in and be and create that power, that passion to help people, whatever that thing is. Sometimes people don't like the widgets that they sell, but they love the people, right? It's the culture that they're building. So how did you see the transformation of when you started doing all the leadership, all the learning, you sat with your techs, your company, to the us? Where's the us now?
I love this because as I look back, there's a book called The Gap and the Gain, and Dan Sullivan wrote this book, and he talks about, like, oftentimes, like, we're constantly focused on like all the growth that we got to do. Everybody's grow, right? But sometimes we got to look back and be grateful and thankful for all the accomplishments that you've done. Sometimes, like, when you're climbing like a set of stairs, or you're climbing a mountain, you don't realize how far you've gone until you've taken a moment to reflect on what you've done. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk about that. There was a lot of trial and tribulations, and this is the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is the accumulation of information, where wisdom is the actual application of the information, right? So as I would apply, and I would learn, I'd get all excited. And maybe if you're listening to this, maybe you've had this happen too. You get back from an event or a thing, maybe you've just gotten back from Bold, and you're like, oh, I want to apply all this stuff in my business right now. And then, like, eventually what will start to happen is that, like, freshness will start to wear off. And then there's work that has to be done here, right? It's fun to start, but, like, then it gets into the boring, mundane grind stuff that you have to keep doing. And throughout the years, I've had people that were all about it and have stayed with me this whole time. And I have other people that, like, were like, hey, you're not trying to change me. And they've had to elect themselves back into the workforce. And that's okay too. I would never encourage you to try to force somebody into put a square through a circle or anything along those lines. But it is your job in any type of role to inspire. The way you inspire them is the same way that you show up for your kids. If anybody that's listening have kids, which I'm sure there are, kids don't listen to what you say, they pay attention to what you do. And I can find areas as I reflect back, when I was all in and I was showing up for myself in the gym, and I was doing all the different things that were happening, and I was studying and I was doing all this stuff. I didn't even have to tell my people to do it. They were just following suit, doing it themselves. And when I fell off, which everybody has an opportunity to do that too, and I've done it, and you fall off. And I was recently reminded, like, when you do, other things start falling apart too, because when you stop showing up for yourself, guess what? You stop showing up for everybody else that's around you. So I went through this delusional part where I was showing up for other people more than I was showing up for myself, thinking I was doing a great deed, and then realized that things weren't going as well as I wanted them to go. So what I then had to do is say, okay, what's happened here? And it came back to a conversation of, DJ, why aren't you showing up for yourself? Because it's like that, everybody uses this analogy. It's like the airplane. You got to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you can care for the other people around you. So the thing that was recently told to me that was very, very powerful was, when you're showing up in an organization as a leader, it is your job as a leader to first show up for your company first. You have to put your company above all else, because if you don't, there won't be a company there to sustain for the families that are counting on you. And in order to do that, that means showing up for yourself. Then once you got the company straight and you're doing everything in a leadership role to build your company, then you have to show up for your people. That's your number one customer, is your employees. So how do you show up for your people? And you can only show up for your people when your company is strong. And then lastly, you show up for your customers. That doesn't mean you put your customers last. What it means is, if you take care of your company and you take care of your people, they will then take care of your customers and your clients. And that was a big shift, because a lot of places teach, hey, you got to take care of your clients, and then you got to take care of your employees, and then you got to take care of your company. And in reality, it's actually the exact opposite. Same with like any other way you try to show up in life. Like, you got to take care of yourself first, then you can take care of others, and then ultimately the others will take care of the whole thing, which is an overarching hierarchy of the me, we, us leadership framework.
It's interesting, because when I first heard the me, we, us, I looked at me as being selfish, self-centered, moving into, okay, how do I work with other people? And then working in an overarching. And yet the way you explained it is in a way that the me, has to be authentically aligned. So there has to be congruency, and it can be positive or negative, because I see people who, yes, they are me, they show up for me, and they're doing, they're, health conscious or working out, and they're on Facebook, or social media, and you see these muscle, and I'm not knocking them, they're doing great things, but are they truly showing up for other people? Is there an alignment? What you're talking about, as a leader, we have the responsibility to take care, to fill our cup, to fill us up, to be healthy, to make sure that our values are aligned, our, the vision, the faith, like whatever that is. Are we the best version that we can be? Are we showing up for us unapologetically and authentically? And then what's the vision, right? The culture, the company, this is my baby. I was meant to bring this to life. But within that, my team, if I'm not being authentic for me, if I'm not carrying this vision forward, if I don't know the vision, if I'm not protecting it, if I'm not letting people inside that are coming alongside, that are connected within values, purpose, right? And I'm just putting them off to the side, you're going to get so much turnover.
Yeah. And part of that, protecting the company, there's three things we look at in the company overall. And as a leader, it is your responsibility to figure this out. Is first and foremost the vision. Like, What does that look like, and how are people aligned with that goal? Because with vision and vision come division, right? And then then the other part of that triangle is the culture. Like, what are the core values in your organization? How are you showing up? Like, what language are you using? What do you tolerate? Like, what are the things that you're showing up to? So how does that align with the vision? And then compensation, right? You got to have some type of compensation, whether that's financial, which is obviously the main thing that people look for, but there's other means of compensation. Like, are you being intentional with how you're showing up with your team? Are you going around and having conversations to inspire them? Are you building your company, and are you leading by design, or are you leading by default? Like, that's that's the big like hammer that comes down. And like, the whole premise behind Uncommon Edge, and one of my things is that we're all uncommon by design, because not to get like too preachy or anything along those lines, but I truly believe like God has a mission for each one of us that's predetermined. Ephesians 2:10, like it's all spoken in there. And I think that like every one of us has something that's designed. So, and God created us in his image, right? So we're designers. So he didn't put you here to just default into whatever, because culture is going to happen whether you want it to or not. It's just, are you going to design the culture, or are you going to let it be default by whatever,
So good.
Yeah.
So good. Okay.
Yeah.
So I have a question. Because you work in a family business.
Yes.
Mom and dad have the business. And you gave me the backstory of grandpa selling bleach,
Yeah.
right? How does it, because there's a lot of people that we work with, that we have within our driven community, that work with family members, best friends. How do you create a culture by design, not default, when you are so close to the people in your organization?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's one that I've personally had a journey through, and have pitfalls and successes and everything else. The biggest thing is getting aligned. So like we talked about, like with two different visions come division. One of my favorite quotes from Jim Rohn is, I'm going to work on me for you as long as you work on you for me. And that is really powerful when it comes to a family dynamic, because egos can come into play. And there's a tool that I've recently learned, and I wish I learned this years ago. But it's understanding there's a difference between your ego and your true self. And every time your ego shows up, think of it as like a pack of dogs, right? And so if you want to be boastful, or you feel intimidated by somebody or whatever, whether it's in your organization, outside your organization, from your family, whatever, those dogs start barking in your ear, so to speak, right? And you have to learn how to train them. You can never get rid of your ego, but you can learn to control it and actually train it and use it as a tool. So there are times as a leader, you have to be boastful, because you have to be confident in what it is that you're doing. Everything that you do, you're selling. This conversation is a sales pitch, whether you believe it or not. The conversation you're having with your kids, or your kid is having with you, is a sales pitch that is happening. So you have to be able to control that ego when those things come into play. But when you can actually go into a conversation and say, hey, let's check the egos at the door, and let's have a true self conversation, it opens up a trust that you can't have while the ego's there shielding you from that being able to happen. So in a leadership role, the ability to control your ego, whether it's in a defensive or offensive mode, is really, really powerful. So when you're having a conversation with your parents, a lot of times ego is involved. Like, hey, are they more successful than what I did? And like, how's that make me feel? Well, maybe like one of the things that like my dad and I had to have conversations around was, well, why don't you call me all the time for advice anymore? Well, it's like, because I remember having a conversation. Well, what do you need to have all this advice from all these other mentors. Like, just listen to your old man, right? Well, that's the ego barking, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. I love my dad to death, and he's taught me a ton.
Yeah.
There comes a point where you have to start opening it up and learning from other people, and that allows you to pull time forward. I know I kind of scrolled off a little bit there, but like, getting into the conversation in a family environment is getting aligned and putting egos aside and finding out where everybody's roles are.
Mm.
So one of the ways you can do that is start asking, and this is not just family, this is business as a whole. What problems do you solve for the organization? There should be like 3 to 7 problems that you're solving. So it's not like, hey, I'm HR, or hey, I'm operations, or hey, I'm sales, or any of those types of things. Figure out like what problems does that role solve? How many roles are you filling? What's the capacity that you have? And figure that out and play to everybody's strengths. Everybody has an uncommon edge. And it's your job as a leader to find out what that is and expose it and wield it as a sword.
So do you and your mom and dad, are they actively involved in Speed Clean services to this day? Your dad and your mom?
No, not since just shortly after COVID. They are no longer actively involved in the company, aside from like maybe a question here or there, or my dad likes to say he likes to come in and stir the pot every so often, that kind of stuff. But I run all the day-to-day stuff.
So you are it. You are it. This is why it is the second generation. You're it. So
yeah,
how do you? Oh, no, go ahead. At this point. So do you coach people in regards to other companies that have dealt with some of your same challenges, opportunities for growth?
Yeah, we do coaching. There's all kinds of opportunities there that I've helped many companies grow and scale. It boils down to finding what people actually want and what they need, which are usually 2 different things, and then agreeing on a price and then over delivering, and you're doing that as many times as physically possible. And so that's some of the things that I do. I want to have a conversation, because one of the hard parts, as I've spent all this time, effort, resources, money in all this coaching, is everybody has a specific niche, and that might work for one company, but it might not work for another one. And then they double down on the successes that is having. That's why the niches are so powerful. So one of the things that we do that's different as I help companies grow is we look for ways that we can increase the frat formula in their businesses, and figure out ways, how do we increase the frequency, referrals, average ticket, and price in the organization. And as a leadership role, you have to know how to do that. Otherwise, it's going to end up hurting your business, because when it all boils down to it, and I said, I'm not cash motivated, I'm not very money motivated, which I believed was true 100% of the time. But then somebody recently told me, well, DJ, you want to help people, right? You want to like change people's lives. You want to make it so people in your organization grow, right? You might have people in your organization that want to take a trip or do all these other things. When you boil it down, most goals are all cash motivated. You can help a lot more people with millions of dollars than you can with thousands of dollars, right? It's just math. And for some reason, for years and years and years, I associated like, oh, like, I don't need that, I don't want that, with those goal things. And then we turned around and started saying, okay, no, that allows me to help people. So no, we're gonna drive revenue.
Why do you think that people have the biggest challenges, or what creates the biggest challenge in the frat formula?
It's mindset. A lot of it is mindset. And I don't want to be cliche, because everybody says mindset. When you like, I'm from Detroit area. So if Henry Ford's got that quote, if you think you can,
you think you can't.
Right.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, you're 100% right. So at the end of the day, it's figuring out what it is. So when we do FRAP, we actually install it backwards. We look at, we're assuming that you already have your vision, you already have your culture, you already have your compensation figured out. And if you don't, we'll help you with that. But then you move on to the next thing, and that's we do the FRAP. So we do it in reverse. Price. Are you priced properly? Like, as a leader, it is important for you to actually know your numbers and know what it actually costs to run your business. If you're in a service business, you should know your cost of services sold, your overhead expenses, what your intentions are behind the net profit, and how you'll reinvest that back into the company. You should know what your break-even points are. So we go ahead and help with all those types of things. And then after we get that situated, then we look for any gaps. Look for ways that we can increase the price, and do it from a pure motive standpoint. I'm not saying to rake people over the coals with price, but are there legit reasons and whys behind these price increases? Maybe it's seasonality, maybe it's capacity, whatever. Dive into that. Then we go into the average ticket. So when somebody's actually converted and turned into a customer with you, how do we increase the spend? So maybe it's through upsells, cross sells, all kinds of other things. And again, doing this from a pure motive standpoint of, hey, I would be unjust, or it would be wrong of me not to bring these things up to you, because I know that you actually need them and you want them. Because if I don't tell you about them, you don't know that we do these services, well, then you might end up doing that from the guy down the street. And guess what? Nobody's going to serve you better than us. So it would be unjust of me not to at least give you the information so you can make a decision if you want to spend more with us. And the more you have those conversations, the more your average ticket increases, which will allow you to pour back into your people and pour back into your clients. So closed mouths don't get fed. So you have to learn to open your mouth and actually have that conversation. Then once you've had that conversation, you can then go into your referrals. Like, hey, you loved what we did here? Like, let's tell some people about it. Like, let's encourage.
Why do you think people have the hardest time asking for referrals, though?
I think the hardest part is because, like, is again the mentality behind it. Maybe you don't believe 100% in what it is that you're doing. Maybe it's you're not bought into what it is. Maybe it's the fact that you feel like you don't have the right to ask for those referrals, whatever it might be. So one of the things that we teach is, like, how do you actually systematize that process? By planting seeds early on. So for example, like in Bold, it could be like during the enrollment process, like, hey, how we're big on referrals. So we would love for you to have people that you can refer us to. And I even don't even like the word referral. Honestly, I like introduction, or, like, because people will have no problem giving an introduction because it separates them from the accountability. A lot of people don't like to give referrals because they feel like once I've referred them, I'm now stuck on the hook. I'm responsible for the outcome of that referral, right? We've all been there at some point. Yeah. But as an introduction, hey, I have no problem introducing you. And then whatever you guys do after the introduction, that's on you guys, right? So, like, hey, like, for example, in yours, is there 5 people that you wouldn't mind introducing us to? So on and so forth. And once you systematize that referral process through it, like, it could be automated text campaigns, it could be planting seeds before and post service or whatever. Then, and only then, you can go into frequency. And that is, how do you get the client to engage with you more often than what it was planned? Maybe it's figuring out ways that, hey, they instead of cleaning their carpets every 12 months, it's every 6 months or every quarter or whatever it might be, and have logical justifications for people to actually do that, whether it's through promotionals or discounts, or which I don't even like to discount as much because that devalues your stuff, but maybe it's value add. Like, hey, maybe this month we're throwing in an extra thing, like, maybe whatever it might be, an extra session. Like, hey, this month we're extending Bold an extra day or whatever. Sorry to keep running back to Bold, but I'm thinking all the different.
I told you, there's a lot of people who are like, we need another day, or we need to come back for Bold too.
Right? Yeah, because there's a lot that you go in that. Because I remember, you and Eric had that podcast. We talked about like how Bold came about, and like, so you're cramming like months worth of stuff in just a couple days. So it's really, really powerful to go through that. So like, but yeah, we go into all the different ways that you can increase all those things. So like if you're listening and you want to like dive deep, and maybe you're in some type of leadership role or something along those lines, where like, hey, increasing my price, my referrals, my average ticket, frequency in the company. I have a resource, if it's okay by you, I'd love to give
Of course.
your people. If you go to app.warplan.com/60 PPI/DJ. Okay. And I'll say it again, app.warplan.com/60 PPI/DJ. And that stands for Profit Producing Ideas. So what I've done is I've compiled this document that gives you 15 executable ideas for each one of those things: frequency, referral, average ticket, and price, that you can start executing in your business right now or in your leadership role right now. So by listening to this podcast today, you will automatically increase your revenue in your organization.
And we will put that on the link in the podcast, just so you know, we'll drop it in there. Yeah. Okay. So how this, you have a plan, and you create a plan for people to help them. How does the me versus we versus us impact that?
Yeah. So going back to that, so we dive into the me first. Like, how are you showing up for yourself? Like, and most of the time, like, people believe like they're showing up for themselves like 100%. But when you actually dive into like one of the things Darren Hardy taught me is put the number in the box. I don't need to know the story. I don't need to know the context. Just put the number in the box, or yes or no, or the check mark or whatever. Just put the thing in the box and I'll know the story. Like, did you do the 200 calls today? How many calls did you get done?
Yes or no?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. How many calls did you get done? Oh, well, oftentimes it goes, oh, well, this came up or that. No. How many calls did you get done? Put the number in the box and I'll know the story. And it sounds cold, but when you eliminate the emotion out of that, you can lead way better and have metrics that drive the leadership. I'm not saying to be impersonal. When there is a time and a place to get emotional and help your team and be all vested in, but you also have to understand, when you drive your company in a leadership role, and this is starting with the me stuff, from a place of high emotion, understand where there's high emotion, there's low intelligence in that moment. So sometimes, have you ever been in, like, you're listening to this, and have you ever been in a situation where maybe you've said or done things that you didn't really want to do because you were really emotional in the moment, and after you've had a time to cool down, and all of a sudden you're like, oh man, shit. Now I gotta go
take that back. Oh.
Nobody listening to this call has ever had that happen. No, right?
Yeah, can't rewind.
Right. But think about that moment. In that moment, you were driving in high emotion, high ego, high drive in that moment. And then all of a sudden, the intelligence drops. You go into primal fight or flight instincts. It doesn't mean that you're stupid. It just means like, hey, instinctual stuff is starting to take over and you start lashing out. So we try to take the emotion out of it so we can actually make predictive, analytical decisions based on data rather than emotion. And then the emotion can drive the vision. The emotion can, like, if you're celebrating, like, that's the main emotion that you should be worried about, is celebration. So when you're leading yourself, you have to understand the main emotions that you're dealing with. Most of them are negative. If you really think about it, like that movie, my kids love that movie, Inside Out, right?
Inside Out.
Have you ever seen it? Right. So you have like anxiety, anger, like all these different things. But joy was the only one that was like a positive emotion. Right. So it's crazy. So joy has to like control all these negative emotions that are happening. So you have to be able to do that in your business, and it starts with yourself. And sometimes you don't want to do the thing, right? I remember you were talking to me about like the Mel Robbins, like high five thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you got to roll out of bed and do the thing and you don't want to do it and give yourself a high five. And that's the me leadership stuff.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. So that's the me leadership, doing the thing you said you were going to do long after the feeling of doing it has worn off.
Yeah.
Like that's where it, and I struggle with that too. Like I'm in a season right now of I fell off a little bit in my health. I've put on weight when I didn't want to put on weight, and I had somebody that held me accountable to that and was like, "Hey, what's going on?" Like you talk all this leadership stuff, and they gave me a little pat on the belly. And it's like, "Hey, like what's that?" And my ego could have been like, "Screw you," but in reality, like they're saying that out of a place of love, really.
Yeah.
And like it was a gut check that I needed in that moment, which got me back on track, and I'm back onto my exercise routine and all that type of stuff. And already in the little bit of time that's already starting to happen, I'm seeing people showing up different around me, and
because you're showing up. That's what
differently.
you said in the very beginning. When we as leaders show up and we're aligned, other people will start to show up, and people can feel it. You don't have to say anything. It's your actions, your inactions. They can feel it. They can see it. And they're looking at, do I want to be aligned with your bullshit, or do I want to be aligned with your purpose, your design?
Yeah. 100%. So yeah, it's showing up and diving into that. So the majority, like 80% of leadership, in my opinion, is the me leadership. And everything else just kind of cascades down. I mean, there's tactics and things that can go in, and everybody, shucks the tactics. But at the end of the day, it boils down to like, how are you going to actually apply those tactics?
Yeah.
And do you actually believe those tactics? And are you actually seeing through those tactics? Do you have the grit, like the true grit to actually execute on it and show up day in and day out, even when you don't feel like it?
Where we just ended, what you just said is where we started, right? When you got into Speed Clean Services and you're looking at your team that you have, and that's not what you wanted to create, and you got hungry to do something different, and you showed up, you did the work without someone giving you the tools necessarily. A lot of times people look for handouts. You actually were proactive, and you have this information and something stirs in you. We cannot teach what we don't know. And great leaders, people like you, this is why there's such a connection, is you've done it. You've walked it. You've lived it. And when you walk it, you live it, you've been through it, and you're seeing the other side. It's not that it's always perfect, but you know what to do, and it creates credibility, and it's sticky. And people, I always look at, people, we look at people who, we love to follow people who've had hard stories or adversity and have come through the other side. Why?
Yeah. That's the hero's journey. I mean, if you look at every major movie that's like blown up, right? Like Star Wars, that's the hero's journey. Harry Potter, like there's a joke on the internet right now of like Harry Potter's just Star Wars recreated with wizardry, right? Because it's if you look at it, it's the same thing. It's the coming of age, then the whole like the pit of despair. So I saw this thing not too long ago, which was really, really cool. So you start off in any journey of, you are like optimistically unaware. You're just like super excited to go on this journey. And then you take the plunge and you go in, and all of a sudden you fall down into this pit of despair. And you're like, oh, I'm in it now. What do I got to do? Like, this is nuts. I'm in this valley, and it's dark and it's dingy. Something stinks down here. Like, I don't know what's going on. And you can sit there and
sewage
sulk
underneath my basement.
You can sit here and sulk all day in this valley, in this pit of despair, or you can realize the only way out is to actually start climbing up. And so one thing after a time, you climb up this dirt hill or whatever it is, and the dirt might fall out from under you. You might even tumble back down, but eventually you get to the other side. And on the other side is optimistic awareness. right? So on the other side is optimistic awareness, because now you know, hey, I know how to get out of that pit. And everybody listening has been through one of these pits at one point or another, whether it's through relationships, with your kids, with your spouse, with team members, whatever, with yourself, whatever it might be. We've
Your
all
parents.
been, yeah, 100%. Everybody here has gone through that. But on the other side, now you know how to do it. Now, it is your responsibility as a leader to build a bridge to connect that so people don't have to fall down in that pit. So like, I like that analogy, because every time I get through something, I am so excited to say, hey, I know how to do this, so I can help you not fall into the same thing that I don't want you to go through what I've had to go through, and that is, in my opinion, a great leader, somebody that is actually truly looking out for the people that they serve, which is your people, your organization, because I'm nothing without my team. I mean, I'm just one person, and I try very hard to let them know that I might not be perfect in that all the time, but they mean so much to me, because I know that they turn around and help others as well, because we have this culture of helping. Like, one of our core values is here to help. So they're showing up in their churches better. They're showing up in their families better. They're showing up in their friendships better, relationships with their family better, all that type of stuff. And so we don't sell, cleaning and restoration and all that type of stuff. We actually sell people improvement. That's what it is that we sell.
I love it. Okay, so a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Before we end. So how are you showing up for you? What are you doing right now to show up for you?
Right now, actively, I am showing up for myself by getting more active again. I'm in a accountability group that I'm working with, that is having me show up better on my like physical health. So I'm getting my steps in, getting my workout in, getting all that type of stuff. A matter of fact, before getting on this call, I got a little pumped up by doing some exercises and stuff like that. So I'm showing up for that big time. The other thing I'm showing up is with my kids. Like, I'm really, really big on when I am doing stuff with them, I'm extremely intentional. I don't just ask them, how was your day? I actually ask probing questions to find things out. I get out, like, just went and did some rollerblading with my oldest daughter yesterday. It's just fun stuff like that. So that's a big way of me showing up, by diving in even deeper and not allowing myself to give excuses.
So good.
So that's where I'm shaking myself, because I went through a short season of, like, man, I just allowed too much tolerance. So I'm now at the point of, I'm not tolerating that anymore. And that's how I'm showing up for myself.
I love it. Well, and it's the so what now what? Every single person, we have moments that we fall down. It's human nature, and we get back up. Some areas in life we crush it, and then other areas of life kind of fall off. And then it's like, okay, wait, I got to get back in balance. It's the tune up. It's like the car analogy, right? You cannot just keep driving your car if you don't put gas in the tank, or you don't get a tune up once in a while. So knowing that there's things that we have to stay in line with.
Yeah,
okay.
Try changing a flat tire while you're going 60 miles an hour, right?
Yeah, I remember driving one time on a rim, didn't realize I had a flat tire because I was young. Yeah, I blew that sucker out. That was not good. I wasn't doing 60. I was doing like 35. It was like, okay. So I have a couple questions because you threw some funny ones at me. So if you could swap lives with any fictional character for one day, who would it be?
Fictional character. That's a good one. I mean, right off the rip, it sounds cliche or whatever, but I would love to do like a Superman or something along those lines. I'd love to do that type of stuff. Or oh yeah, I mean, that's the first one that popped in my head. But like, yeah, I love like a lot of the different superhero stuff. So that'd be cool.
Why?
It would be like, all right, so Professor X, like that would be crazy to be able to do like his stuff, like the telepathy and like being able to have all that information and like lead a powerful group of people. That would be even though he ended up meeting a demise and all that type of stuff, that would be that'd be a cool person, just because I know like the amount of people that you could help. I don't know, it's the superhero aspect of things.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes if you actually just stop and go, well, that'd be really cool, but why? Like Wonder Woman, come on, like I want to take over and just crush darkness.
No, I think everybody has a superhero inside them, right? We talked about that a little bit when you were on my show.
You asked me what my name was, and I said Shitstorm. What's your name?
No, that's a good one. As far as, well, I asked you what your uncommon edge was, and you said Shitstorm, which I thought was funny. But I think like if I was to have like a superhero thing, it would be like a source of empowerment. Like I think I empower people around me. I think I motivate and inspire people around me, and I think that is probably one of my greater superpowers.
Yeah. All right. So as we close up, any last thoughts, any last comments that you want to put a bow on?
Sure. I really came into this with just open heart and no real intentions. I just want you to continue to be successful. I love everything that you and Eric are doing at Bold and the driven leadership. And I highly encourage anyone that's listening, if they haven't been to your thing, they got to check it out, because you're going to learn something about yourself that you don't know right now. And a podcast is great. And, sometimes you get some wonky music out of it, but
Right.
you going in person is really wild. So I just thank you for the opportunity to do that, as well as the opportunity to be on your show. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. If anybody's interested in checking more about me, you can go to uncommonedgepodcast.com. You can check out the podcast there and learn a little bit more about some of the mindset stuff that we do there. You can find Mary's episode, which was really, really good. If you haven't seen that yet, that's really, really good.
So good. So good. What a great way to end it. To start it and end it. Thank you so much for being on here, DJ. And I am just, as I said this before, and I'll say it again, I am so honored to have you in my life. There is such a connection. There's such an alignment. And it is just, I really believe it's just the beginning. There's a reason why we were put together on this earth.
I appreciate it. And I feel the exact same way. And thank you so much. And thank you for everybody that's listening to this. I really appreciate you guys supporting Mary and Eric and their journey. That means the world to me. And, if you ever guys need anything else, I'm always here for you. I really am.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, DJ. And to our listeners, we will see you next week.